There's a new bar in town. Welcome to the Turnbuckle Arms, where the banter flows like wine and the topics are as fresh as an ice-cold pint. So pull up a chair, grab yourself a glass, and welcome your hosts, the Brew'd!
Hello and welcome back to the Turnbuckle Arms, the only pub that's remained open during this national lockdown. My name is Chris, Big Chucky T, and I'm your host for this month. This is now the 6 months of the Turnbuckle Arms, of the special episodes in between. There are many of those, but this is the main episode, of course, and yeah, number 6. I'm joined by fellow Brew'd members here. Please give us a wave, everyone. How are you all doing? We have with us Grizz.
That's me.
Johnny, Lexi, Jason, and a massive welcome back to Matt Bonus.
Hey! Ding dong, hello!
In this very special episode, we're going to be celebrating the 30 plus year career of one of the greatest of all time. He is the Ayatollah Rock and Roller, Carenza de Leon, the Painmaker list creator, man of 1004, holds the best in the world at what he does, the demo god, Le Champion, Y2J, Chris Jericho.
Hey! I deserved one just for that.
And a slightly sadder note, we're also repaying respect to the late, great Eddie Guerrero, who passed away, I think, 15 years ago this year. A great friend of Chris Jericho, of course. Many a tale between those two, I'm sure. So we'll get to that later on. This is an anniversary of Jericho. We're going to start with a toast of Jericho. And we've had some Jericho-themed cocktail ideas throughout the last couple of weeks, and we're going to discuss just a few of them. Now, Lexi, I can see you've got something in your hand there. Would you like to talk a little about this first cocktail?
I have what is officially known as a lion tamer.
Ooh.
So, there you go. I'll bring it close to the camera. I've got floating ice cubes in it, not to dilute it, because, you know. And it is 1 part Southern Comfort. It's 1 part lime cordial. And it did have powdered sugar in it, which is icing sugar. But it kind of dissolved. So, sorry. There you go. If you want to make it at home, there you go. Drink it in, man.
Drink it in, man.
Nice.
That's very nice. We're going to be posting some of these recipes on social media afterwards, so have a go at yourself. For me, mine's a little simpler, the Ayatollah of rum and cola. Very simple, 1 shot Bacardi, Coke, that's it. Simple man. The other one we also came up with was the lime and salt, or lion salt, which is basically a margarita with a salt rim. Again, nothing too fancy. Has anyone else got any Jericho-themed cocktails?
Well, there's a mimosa.
Yes.
A little bit of the bubbly. With Samoji.
Yeah.
Which I did plan to buy for tonight, and I completely forgot because I got sidetracked.
No worries, that's absolutely fine. So, we're going to round table discussion now. So really, we're going to be asking the Brew'd members in turn a little about why Chris Jericho has had such career longevity. What our favourite face of Jericho or period of Jericho has been. Some of your more maybe favourite matches, or dare I say hated matches. And there's one for me that I'm going to pull out. And then what's next for the man himself? You know, he's obviously very good at commentary, but where does he see himself in the next 30 or so years in wrestling? So moving over first to Jason. Why do you think Chris Jericho has been around for so long? What's the secret to his long-term success?
So I think he's got great adaptability. I think he is very self-aware in the sense of he knows that actually the old stick doesn't work, and therefore he needs to definitely change it up. So that might mean saying I need to wear different outfits. I mean, he had a period where he was wearing trunks rather than long trousers as well. So stuff like that. I mean, they used to do his beard in ridiculous ways. Some of them were fantastic. Or he wore a man bun and all those different things. But all of those were just saying that I'm going to do something for a period. And I think every time it tended to work. When he went away and then when he came back, he always had a different kind of gimmick. I mean, I know he did the Y2J countdown, but then he came back with another countdown or something else. I'm trying to think what it was at the time, but it was a different thing. And then
version of it.
Yeah, and then he went to Japan and he said, well, I'm going to wrestle this way. I mean, he even claimed that was the reason why he put weight on. Because he says that most guys there look bigger. They look, having a gut, he said, tended to work. And that was the reason why he had that kind of figure. It's a good excuse, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just bulking up for my run in Japan as well.
He's just ready for the next fight. But yeah, so that was his claim. But I mean, all those things are quite clever. That he's saying, I'm going to present myself in this way for this period of time, and because of that, he's definitely just one of the best at that, and that's why he's still going, isn't it? I mean, that's evidence of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, he chooses to do these things, and it means he's still motivated by his passions, and surely not by money at this point. Although AEW does pay him very well,
yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't need that. So yeah, it's really good. I'm just going to mix it up actually, Jolly. Go with a slightly different question for you. Actually, to be fair, what has been your favourite face of Jericho?
There's quite a few. I mean, he's one of the wrestlers that, don't matter whether he plays face or heel, I've absolutely loved him. But I actually really enjoyed his debut in WWF at the time when he debuted against The Rock and cut him off. I just thought the way that he presented himself was fantastic, which would lead to a match which we'll talk about in a bit from me. I just thought everything about him, the cockiness, the more, I know it sounds awful because obviously it was when he was younger, but the more agile of it that he was, he still was the WCW Lionheart, using the lion tamer, and just everything about him when he came across. At that time I was watching both, so it was really good to see him come from WCW, and I knew who he was. And I just thought everything about him then was just, he was still on the ball. He was still doing exactly what he was doing in the previous company where he was. And I just thought that's the best thing to do. Don't change it because people knew who he was. So that's what I'm like.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's I forget. I think that he was so well established in WCW. So for them, it was quite an acquisition, and that was a time where it would have still been quite shocking, I think, to see talent jumps. Let's not forget he joined along with the rest of the Radicals as well. So Guerrero, Malenko, Benoit, and Perry Saturn, of course. So a lot of us friends there. But yeah, at the time, that was quite a coup for WWF as it was known then. So Lexi, hi. My question to you. I can just quickly recall it. Notes here.
Is that cocktail kicked in already?
It's a straight beer cocktail.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in terms of favourite matches, it is quite hard because Jericho is a man whose obviously career spanned many, many years. Do you have any particular favourites you could pull out?
Right. Like we've just said, there's so many, and I think the one for it's going to go way back, and I make no secret of the fact that I was a WCW girl back in the day purely because of convenience. So seeing things like, or being able to witness things on their network has been fantastic. So I'm going to go back to 1997, and I am going to go with one of his matches against Eddie Guerrero, which was actually on Fall Brawl for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah.
And it's like a hidden gem because you forget about the Cruiserweight division that WCW had at the time. And, when you look back and you think, wow, there was a lot of talent. There was Juventud Guerrero, there was Eddie Guerrero, there was Chavo Guerrero, there was, of course, Y2J, there was Rey Mysterio Jr., so all of this, and it's just a fantastic match from start to finish. It's not as acrobatic as you would expect a cruiserweight match to be, but it is still, honestly, it's just reversal after reversal after reversal, and it is an absolute masterclass in building the crowd up, false finishes, and countering and seeing what they can do. If we're talking things like WWE, WWF, Fully Loaded 2000, it has to be Triple H versus Jericho, last man standing match. Not only was it brutal to watch, it really sort of established Jericho leading on from the cartoony, debuting Lionheart Chris Jericho. This was the evolution into Y2J fully. And it was really the match that made me sit up and pay more attention to him, not that I didn't pay attention to him, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are my two matches. They're highly recommended to watch. So yeah.
Good choices. Yeah, and you forget, because he's such a good promo and presence these days, you forget what phenomenal talent he actually was in the ring, and it makes me want to go back and watch some of those older matches, just to see the real wrestling talent he has. Of course, he's got that far because he can talk, because he can wrestle, but you do tend to forget the latter there, purely because he is so good on the mic these days, and that's kind of what you expect from him. So yeah, good recommendations. And Matt, what's next for the man himself? We've heard him on commentary. Obviously he's a bit of a ring general and an AEW leader. But where do you see him moving on when he eventually retires?
I think it's important that he stays in the business, because I think he's got so much experience and so much talent that he can share with other people. And I know in his last run in WWF or WWE, sorry, he was putting people over, and he was actually passing the torch on to a degree. Even with his the run that he did with Fandango. They had about the WrestleMania match with barely any build, but just I tend to watch wrestling from a technical sort of perspective. So if you watch Jericho, maybe not exactly now, but a few years ago, if you watch the way he moves around the ring, how he gets in between the ropes, how he gets in that, just the really little things, that's the sort of stuff that needs to be passed on to the younger talent that are coming through, because ironing out all the creases and make sure everything's spot on. I think to Lex's point about sort of the WCW days as well, I think he mentions in his book that they were always opening the show. Cruiserweights would always open the pay-per-views because the powers that be were all, everything was backed on to the heavyweights and the big names. So they'd always open the cruiserweight match, and that'd normally be the best wrestling match of the night anyway. So you get Eddie and Jericho coming out, and they'd steal the show from minute one. And that's something he had to fight for and push for, and that raises his effort levels as well. And I think if you can instill that sort of that sort of passion into people, which I think they have gotten a lot of the talent in AEW at the moment, they want to go out and steal the show and do things. He just needs to, he's walking, talking proof of that. But I think you can do that while still being in the ring. Beyond that, I've mentioned a lot on social media, when especially at the start of the pandemic, where Jericho was basically doing comms week in, week out on Dynamite, and it was Dynamite. Some of the stuff he's coming out with, legitimately knowledgeable, and he had proper insight into it, but he just did it in a funny way, kept in character the whole time as well. I'd love to see or hear more of him doing that going forwards.
Yeah, too. It's interesting that he's had his kind of crack at acting. He's done some sitcoms. He's kind of already done that in an essence, and he's come back to what he knows. Unlike The Rock, who arguably has come back part-time occasionally. All right, Chris Jericho isn't Hollywood Rock levels of fame, but he has had a crack at that, and he still sticks with the business. There's a certain sense of loyalty in that as well, I think, because he could do other stuff, and he has done. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, like you, I'd love to see him inspired. Well, he already has inspired. Carry on inspiring, the next couple of generations. So, and Grease, last but not least, of course, he said it before, but will he work for another company ever again? Because he has made that promise before, and he has had to renege on that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, also it was interesting that you bring up he's done acting and all that, because he's done hosting jobs, especially one for you to check out, Robot Combat League.
Your alley.
Where he hosted that, and it's giant rock'em sock'em robots. And probably in about 3 years, my Robot Wars podcast will get up to that. So I need to get you on for a little guest spot. But yeah, he always says he was WWE through and through. until he was going to retire. He was never going to leave. And then all of a sudden, he crops up in New Japan. And then even like there was even talks that I think at one point he was maybe considering doing Impact, because he gave some Fozzy music to them, and then they're like, oh, could this be like the start of Chris Jericho making his way to Impact? And then I feel like they were like Bound for Glory, like maybe 2 years ago or something. They were in New York, and there was kind of talks again about Jericho being the mystery participant. So like, there's always Jericho's name around every company, and more so now because he always says, I will work for WWE, nobody else, and now he's worked for 2 other major companies. So I don't see why, before he retires, why not have like a month run before Bound for Glory next year, Impact, if you're looking to do like a kind of retirement tour or something like that. So like, like help bump up the guys that are there. Maybe, your next big star. I mean, Eddie Edwards falls right off the top of my head. Eddie Edwards versus Chris Jericho. Yes, please. Here's my metaphorical money for that one. Or stuff like that. Like, there's loads of like opportunities still out there, and obviously, depending on when the world can get back to normal, like it's just going to open up more and more. And even if last thing, even if like he decides to step away from the ring, his rock and wrestling cruises seem to be doing quite well. So, he could just probably start promoting them for the rest of his life. And, living wrestling legend Chris Jericho, come get drunk with me on a boat. And then AEW will be here recording TV and blah-de-blah. So there's many different ventures. And let's just see what happens, I guess.
Was as well, massive success. There's no reason he couldn't have gone for many more years doing this. So, yeah, the options are there for him, and the world is his oyster, really. I love that idea of doing like a TNA appearance, kind of grand slam of appearances in companies. I don't know if there's anyone that's ever worked for as many companies as he has. So that would be really special. And I really like the idea. I have to say, I think if he's, eventually going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, you've got to think that means he's going to appear for a kind of extended run again, just to kind of lead up to that, perhaps, as they tend to do with a lot of Hall of Fame entrants sometimes. So, yeah, we look forward to that. And eventually he'll kind of come back home, I guess, But, of course, I love him being AEW. It brings the product a little bit of agency, I think, and, of course, everyone knows who he is. So, thank you for that. So what we're going to do now is something a little special and different for the Turnbuckle Arms. It's the Quiz of Jericho. Think it in, man. Okay, is everyone ready?
Go on.
Okay. All told, between ECW, WCW, WWE, New Japan, and AEW, how many championships has Jericho held?
So how are we going to do this? Are we going to show our answers to the screen?
Shout them out afterwards. That's fine. All right. Next. Well, are you ready? I'll go on to the next question when you're ready. Give me a second. It's my whole. Not good idea for a podcast to have silence while the answers are being collected.
Oh man, an elevator version of the Judas theme.
Love that. That's a good idea. All right, next question. Where did he get the idea of the countdown to the Millennium Clock for his WWF introduction? There's a famous story as to why he had an inspiration to do it. So I want to know where he saw the kind of idea to do it, in which location. Okay.
Oh. If this isn't that, then I'm going to be pissed.
Matt Shorgan. Okay. Moving on. In the then WWF, who was his first actual match against? And for a bonus point, what happened? What was the finish? If you're listening at home, I hope you're playing along as well. And next question. What was the name of his often forgotten facebuster finisher during the invasion angle, which actually helped him win the WCW Championship from The Rock? This one had a particular name, and it was unique. As a clue, yeah, it was a kind of full Nelson facebuster.
Oh, that
Question
one.
finale.
He's misunderstood what a quiz is. Well done.
Yeah, that's what the Miz calls his version of it.
Yeah, that's what.
Anyone wondering? It's
From
not
me.
called the Skull Crushing finale.
Yeah. And bonus and final question: what was the name of Chris Jericho's father, and which NHL team did he play the majority of his career professionally for? Priceless. This is like exam time at school. I just love seeing everyone's faces. Like, okay. Are you ready?
I've done really badly at this.
So, got a question. See, for the first one, the how many titles?
Yeah.
Are we doing Price is Right rules, where it's whoever's the closest without going over?
Yes, we are going to do that. So, why don't you just all tell me your answer, and we'll just say.
I said 52. I went high.
I went 36.
Okay.
21.
21, and Matt. How many you got?
Yeah, 21.
Chris.
Put 65.
Oh.
30.
Lexington's actually spot on. 36 championships.
Whoa!
That was genuinely
She
a guess
should
because
get-
I was talking between 36 and 37. I went, I'll go low. It's fine.
Oh, right. Yeah,
She should get an extra point for getting it on the button.
yeah, Lexi. Okay, right. Okay, next one. Where did we get the idea of the countdown to Millennium Clock from?
The Austin twins turning 18.
The answer and deserves a point, but is incorrect.
That's not true.
I want to say it's from some sort of rock band that he saw in New York.
Okay, any other answers?
I thought it was like a Christmas thing. He was in a supermarket and it was some kind of count. But it's counting down to the Millennium Clock. And he said to somebody, I wish that'd be a good idea.
It's close. Anyone else?
I just said New Year's Eve in New York.
Okay, and Matt, any guess?
I just wrote down no fucking idea.
No, it was actually from his local post office, and they had it behind the counter. This was from his book, A Lion's Tale, and yeah, he said he got the idea. It was obviously the Millennium, but yeah, in his local post office, he saw it behind the counter. So there you go. Okay, next one. I like this one. Yeah, so who was his first match against? And bonus point, what was the finish?
The
I
only
thought it was
thing-
X-Pac.
I'm assuming the Rock interfered.
well, I thought No Mercy 2001 with The Rock.
Okay, interesting. But I think, yeah, we're going a little further ahead. Anything else?
No, I thought it was like just a Raw show, wasn't it? I believe. I thought
Yeah.
it was like-
It was a Royal show.
I put
Had
the
it
Road
down
Dog
that
and
it
he
was a
lost.
Raw show.
Sorry.
It's
Lexi.
alright. Go on, Grizz.
I just put down the Road Dog and he lost.
I thought he hurt somebody. That was the thing I thought actually happened as well. He injured somebody.
Lexi, any guesses?
I didn't get the opponent, but I thought that it was some type of running.
I'm going to give Grizz the point there. It was Road Dogg,
Oh my god!
and he's so happy. And he powerbombed him through the table, so it was a DQ finish. So Jericho lost his first match via disqualification. He used to do that sick double powerbomb where he'd pick him up twice. So, yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Grizz is very...
Stop with your Teddy Long dancing. Teddy Long can do
That
that.
was Rikishi dancing.
No, that was
I think
Teddy.
I found. No, it wasn't.
Teddy Long in the tag team tournament being introduced at the time. So, yeah. Okay, I've already lost count of the score, but you're doing very well. What was the name of his facebuster finisher during the invasion?
Right down.
Okay, anyone else?
I thought it was a code breaker. Was that the
No.
other move?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the newer move.
Yeah.
Matt, any other guesses?
The lion face, I don't know.
I went along with the same thing, Mike, and I went for Lion Tamer, but I don't think it is.
Well,
That's his.
That's the Boston Crab move.
Yeah, that's his. Was Jericho.
For me, this is my favourite period of Jericho. The little like red streak in the back of his hair right at the bottom, I think, as well. It was the breakdown. So congratulations. Very good. Yeah. And
Chris, are you just necking that straight?
Yeah, I got too excited.
You absolute madman. Right, lads, can we put an embargo in? Instead of getting Grizz some new gear for Christmas, can we all sort of do some sort of injunction, please? Not injunction, intervention, please.
Do I have to come?
Yes.
Oh. Well,
final one.
What's the last question,
Sorry.
then?
Yeah, final one was So who was Chris Jericho's father, and which NXT team did he play for?
I know it. I can't remember his first name, but obviously is it Irvine? And I'm assuming it's like the Canadian Penguins or something like that.
Ted Irvine, New York Rangers.
Anyone else?
I think New York Islanders. I knew it was New York. I can remember which team.
Okay.
Saskatchewan. I don't know.
I've gone with Mr. Irvine. And I just wrote down they play in blue. And then I did a really rough sketch. And this is why I won't win any artistry awards. But I think that's the kind of jersey that they play in.
He's not in the Scouts.
I was thinking more it looked like a jockey, but I didn't have a blue pen to hand, and to be honest with you, I don't want to hold up a quiz for a blue bloody pen.
His name's David, wasn't it? His dad's name? That was what I thought. No.
Grizz again, Master of Jericho. Yeah, Ted Irvine or Irvin, and it was the New York Rangers, which do play in. So.
Do they play in blue?
They do. So congratulations.
And I'm pretty sure,
I'll take it.
The Rangers' name is down, kind of across the shirt.
Yeah, quarter point for the sketch. That was very good. So I've got lost track there, but I think Grizz might have edged it just about. So congratulations. That was good. So I enjoyed that.
Grizzy double quiz. Double golden Grizz.
I have to say, the only one I didn't know was the championships and the. That was it, to be honest. Yeah,
well, I got the countdown clock.
Countdown clock. Yeah, I got to say, big fan. Read the books, and that's most on those books. So, yeah, well done, everyone. Okay, so moving swiftly back on, and well done again, Grizz. I wanted to talk, now a little bit more about, one of his great friends, and Grizz, great suggestion to talk about this on the show. Eddie Guerrero. What a talent, and seemingly what a fantastic person as well. It's good to see Vicky is carrying on working. Obviously he touched many lives, and it's really good to see that she's still kind of being honoured in her own way and doing her own work. But I wanted you guys to just kind of go around, starting with you, Jason. Talk a little about Eddie Guerrero. Why he meant so much to fans, and I think a little more controversially, there's some other things we'll cover. But yeah, first of all, what were some of your highlights? Why was Eddie Guerrero the man he was?
He always had kind of a look, which was a smile and a smirk that felt like you were in on the joke. And there was always, so when he did something, he was a face who cheated and got away with it. And that was, lying, cheating, steal was the whole thing. And you always felt, for whatever reason, you rooted for that. And no one else, I was watching, like Wrestle Talk were talking this morning. They were trying to say that they were trying to do the similar with what's his name, Buddy Murphy or whatever, and because the Mysterios were cheating in the match, and they said Eddie Guerrero was the only one who could do that, could hold those two things in tension. Don't try and recreate that. He was amazing in the ring. I watched that 4-brawl match as well that Lexi was talking about, and it was superb. And it was just, the one I remember was Latino World Order. I always wanted that to be redone again because that was so good. But you knew that he just wanted to be the best in the ring. He supposedly tried to have a fight with Kurt Angle at one time because he got fed up of how they were how he wasn't being as good as Kurt Angle. I was like, yeah, okay, you're setting your bar very high, aren't you? But he was so good and so charismatic, and that was the other thing. He was a small physique, even though he did bulk up quite a bit towards the end when he was fighting Lesnar and that. But he was so charismatic in that. They supposedly had a list, because I've listened to JR's Black Hat audiobook, and he was saying that when they talked about the Radicals, even though they knew Benoit was the best wrestler, when they heard Eddie Guerrero, they were like, are you kidding me? And he says, when Vince meets Eddie, he'll just fall in love with him. He says he knew that was one of the things, so he sent him to his house, and he says, just meet him. And that sounds like a wonderful story of the type of personality he was. And I mean, he was the best. I mean, his bar was very high in his ability, and sadly, and you saw how much it affected Dave Bautista, because they were feuding towards the end, weren't they? And because he obviously loved him, cared quite a bit. Sorry, I've made somebody a bit emotional there, but it was quite serious though. Yeah, he was just he was just you could see that obviously he cared about his craft, and he cared about the fans, and he tried really, really hard. That would be my take.
Yeah, I agree. I think something that he did admit was during his kind of championship run. So I'm talking around the JBL era, I suppose. He admitted later that there was a tremendous amount of pressure on him to carry that title at the time. And Matt, I'm going to ask you this: did you think you saw any of that in his performances? Because I certainly didn't. What's your memories of that championship run? And what do you think of Eddie as the main man? The standard bearer of WWE at the time.
Yeah, I think at the time you didn't really notice it, but then I suppose when you look back on it with like the benefit of hindsight, you can sort of see the pressure, and you hear all the stories from other people about how it was affecting it. But at the time, like Eddie was like, I was really behind him as the champion. It was especially given the time that he was there as well, because he was an undersized guy. But for a Vince McMahon company, like for a Vince McMahon champion, he was undersized compared to what the norm is. And up until that point, there weren't many people that got the chance to have the title and run with it that were his size. So, I used to love what he did, in the ring, all the promos, the gimmick work and everything he was doing was fantastic. And you always got the impression he wanted to go above and beyond all the time. Whatever match he was in, wherever it was, whether it was a house show, TV, pay-per-view, you always got the impression he wanted to, push everything as much as he could. I mean, obviously, I think there was no time where I think he bladed and he was like literally squirting blood.
It was the match against JBL, and he cut himself too deep.
Yeah.
And he almost stopped the match.
Yeah. Where Edge got hurt as well, like completely accidental, with both of them going hell for leather. So it's when you look back at it and put things into context, you can see what he was trying to do and what he was achieving, but then obviously the toll that it was taking on him at the time as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I look back at it as one of my favorite periods of kind of SmackDown history, actually, to be fair, and it was great. It was a combination of a lot of years of work for Eddie. So moving to you, Jolly, who would you like to kind of see him interact with today? If you could build a kind of dream pay-per-view, who would he feud with leading up to this? And then obviously, who would you like to see him either tag with or just take on in a kind of singles match?
Right, so obviously if this question's I didn't know about this question, but so there's going to be quite a few people that I miss out, or some people that you guys all remember. So the main ones that I could think of, if we're looking at the main SmackDown and Raw, it'd be the likes of Ricochet, just for the fast-paced cruiserweight style. I'd actually quite like him to face someone like Braun Strowman, because he had a fantastic match with Brock Lesnar. So I could see him doing really well with some of the big guys. And then you've got the likes of, again, Rey Mysterio, because no matter what it was, when it was, them two would be amazing together. Aleister Black. And then if we're looking over at AEW, I mean, there's not even, I'd be doing I won't be doing the good thing of just naming 5. There's just the entire card of AEW, to be honest, for Eddie Guerrero, because of the way that company has been structured. Again, you could have a look at Cage, you could have a look at the Young Bucks, Matt Sydal, Pac, absolutely, good call that.
Omega.
Omega, yeah. As I said, They've got AEW have got a company together, as I said, that no matter who you can put in with, you would be able to put that as the main bill, or that would be the match that people would talk about more than anything else. I mean, the amount of matches that, like what Lexi was saying with WCW, the amount of matches that he was in WCW, and people were talking more about that than the main card of the main event. So, to be honest, I think anyone in the world, Okada, if you're looking at New Japan, anyone that you put him in the ring with would just be gold. It would be a 5-star match. So I would be doing I won't be doing it justice by naming certain people, but as I said, there are going to be more people out there that I haven't named. But I think no matter who he's with, I think it'd be a fantastic match, and it would be a talking point in any show.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're right. It's very difficult to put that down. He was so great at basically taking on anyone and having a great match with them. It's difficult to match him up with anyone, really, because it could be anyone. So quite right. And Grizz, leading on from the point about AEW, like, would you have seen him? Do you think sticking with WWE? Do you think the loyalty would have been there these days, or could you see him in a TNA or an AEW? Because I think I could, to be fair. I think that there would be too much talent these days, and someone in the prime of his years, he would have been. I think perhaps he could have jumped. What do you think?
Well, I think I've got somebody else that could answer that question for me.
So, usually listening, it's like the kind of, I don't know what they're called. They're the WWE like buddies, and I certainly had one when I was young. And they didn't really have like any fingers or toes, but they're just like little huggable toys. I would say lovable, but this one I'm seeing in front of me is not so much. So it's like looking in the mirror. So toy Grizz and just about real Grizz, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I kind of feel like the way that Eddie Guerrero could kind of be like Chris Jericho in the way with how, like, I would not mind if he like kind of went away for a while, as Jolly was kind of saying, mentioning everybody from New Japan and AEW. So I would not be surprised if like he actually just tried to sort of venture over there, like, new talent, because if Eddie was still alive today, he would have pretty much wrestled everybody on the WWE roster. So like Jericho, I wouldn't be surprised if he sort of went away for fresh talent, fresh matches, and just tried to just expand his sort of wrestling list of people. Kind of similar how Cody did as well. Like when he left WWE, the first thing he did was make a list of people that he wanted to wrestle. And I think like he pretty much accomplished that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Guerrero was the kind of person that done the same thing. Because as we kind of mentioned before, like Eddie Guerrero was such a perfectionist. And so could you imagine like people like Kenny Omega, who's also very perfectional? Sure, let's go with that. And his kind of wrestling ability. So yeah, like I would reckon it would be good for him to like have expanded from WWE at some point.
Yeah, I can see that. I think he would have, wanted to play his trade elsewhere, challenge himself, and like you said, pass on the knowledge to the next generation, definitely. And Lexi, so you're not known for really being in many tag teams, obviously famously, we'll see him ever tag with someone else. And is there any kind of fantasy tag teams you'd like to see him in? As bizarre as it sounds, I think him and Seth Rollins actually sometimes have a similar moveset, and I would have liked to have seen that. As bizarre as it might have been, they could have done a very good kind of straight man, funny man couple, I think. So any kind of fantasy tag teams you'd like to see in Eddie, great.
I like that suggestion with him and Seth Rollins, but I'm going to go a little bit left field. I'm going to come up with two. I'm going to say put him with the likes of Pete Dunne.
Love that.
Because Pete Dunne is essentially the enforcer. Eddie Guerrero is the show off, and that's not to take away from Pete Dunne, but because they are so different, I think they'd work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say, and again, I will put a little disclaimer before I say their name. I do not condone what they've been accused of doing. But I would say put in with the Velveteen Dream.
Oh, okay.
Because it's very obvious. You can see Eddie's influence on the Velveteen style of wrestling. So it would be quite nice to see how they would play and interact with one another. And then one that's just come into my head is Sammy Guevara.
Oh.
Again, not condoning what he's done. We all know, but yeah, absolutely. I think I'd like to see that, because I genuinely, when I watch Guevara in the ring, I'm reminded of the very early WCW Eddie Guerrero. And I think it's absolutely fantastic to see that. And under the wing of Eddie, I think the sky would have been their limit, to be honest with you. So yeah, there's my 3.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like that idea. Yeah, the kind of Spanish
Scott
teaming up. Yeah, and you're right. The moveset would be similar again, would be spectacular stuff. So yeah, really good suggestion, everyone there. So that's pretty much the end of like the regular show. But yeah, really good contribution from everyone. And quick shout out to Jericho again. Massive fan for me. I was lucky enough to go see Fozzy, many years ago. And my defining moment of that is him losing a boot at some point off the stage and asking the crowd to have a shoe thrown at him so he could carry on. So my friend I was with, he gladly did that at the time, which wasn't wise, because then we had to be out pretty much in London all night long with one less shoe on him. But he really is a kind of rock star, I suppose, Jericho, in many ways. And I think that's more than anything, it's what kind of keeps him going. He has something about him. He has that it factor. And let's not forget, he's not a second generation wrestler. He's kind of made his own career path. He's always been his own man, and he's never been afraid to stand up for his own ideas. So I actually find him quite an inspiration in many ways. So here's to, well, maybe not 30 more years, but yeah, here's to more years of Jericho. So I just wanted to finish by talking a little bit about some of your best moments of the week, which is a relatively new feature I'd like to do here. I'm going to put everyone on the spot here, but I'm going to start with you, Lexi. What's been your kind of favourite moment this week, or what's the first thing that springs to mind in this week of wrestling?
Right. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, full disclosure. I've been off work this week, so I've just sort of like shied away from a lot of what I would normally do. The thing that springs to mind, and I don't actually know whether it counts as this week, but it's Becky Lynch's maternity photos with Seth Rollins. Now, a lot of people will go, no. But for me, it's quite nice for that, and also as well, Moxley and Renee Young's announcement in probably the most professional wrestling manner ever. So sort of that, it's nice to see the person behind the character that plays them, and to show that they're in that sort of happy place, etc. I'm just going to add a slight caveat though. I really don't want it to be rammed down our throats when baby Becky Rollins is born. I don't want it sort of shoved down our throats that it's
filled in.
So imagine Michael Cole and the network going, did you know that Seth so that's my thing. I'm just going to go baby announcements because it's quite nice. It's been a bit of a rubbish year, so well done, congratulations guys. Becky looked awesome, Seth looked awesome as well. Renee Young's been taking a lot of naps, if you follow her on Instagram. And I'm jealous because I'm like, I need naps. So yeah, anyway, so there we go.
Very good.
Michael's shaking his head. He's like,
off of that.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Because do you realise within the past year, Roman Reigns' wife, Becky Lynch, and now Dean Ambrose's wife have all either been pregnant already had their kid. So we now already have the next generation of Shield.
Wow. I didn't even consider that. That's crazy. Yeah. Wow.
That worries me. That line of thinking worries me because, like you were saying about Chris Jericho had nothing to live up to. So, and this is part of the worry that I have for Dominic Mysterio as well, because his dad is Rey Mysterio. Will he meet that bar? Will he meet, the
He's
achievements and the accomplishments?
Hottest.
The bar in a tag team right now, so.
Very good. No, good suggestion. Yeah, congratulations to Becky, Renee, John, of course, and Seth. That announcement was fantastic. I almost did a bit of a double take when John Moxley said it in a promo, of all things. So she did not know that was going to happen. I also recommend listening to the first edition of her new podcast, Oral Sessions, where the first guest is John Moxley. They've got a lot of stories. They're very honest about their relationship. Give that a little bit of plug there. Okay.
And Renee's tweet where she tweeted out saying, "Now I can tell people about how much my boobs hurt."
Okay. Jason, same for you, please, mate.
So I watched AEW this week, and I thought the Taz promo with Cody was very well done. I'd already read a couple of times that Cody had dropped in that he wasn't a fan of the FTW title, and you were never sure if this was a work or is this legit or whatever. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting twist, the idea of in calling the management, and that was all good. But when they went, it's very simple to then turn off a mic, and then the next minute to put the mic away and then start arguing with each other. I don't want everybody else to hear this. I'm angry with you. It's a very simple thing, but it was felt believable. And then he brought up his son, so that riled it all up. And then he actually attacked him, Taz did, and I was like, yes. And that was I'm a big fan. I used to be a big fan of Taz in ECW. Who is a very, very small bloke, but I was adamant he was legit, and I was like, I would be terrified if I ran into him. So I like the Team Taz. I think that's great, and so I think that's a good way of. And again, it's just another. What's the word looking for? Back in, to talk about the Attitude Era, that everybody was a star, and AEW has that feeling that everybody is a star, and I was like, yeah, I'd watch that as a main event, I'd watch that as this, and that's a really clever way of doing things, that is. And it's another world title that Cody could go for. I wonder if that's where they're angling it, and I thought that was one of the things they might be gearing for. But no, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really good.
Right, it was a different kind of emotion, and to see the heel Taz kind of get upset almost, as I said, is a complete reverse of the normal dynamic, and it was brilliantly done, because you're right, he almost didn't want the TV on him then, he wanted to pull away and say, you can't say that, it was really well done. Yeah, I agree. That's probably my moment of the week as well, to be fair. Jolly, please go ahead.
I've got two. So one was, I've recently just purchased back the network, so I've spent quite a bit of time watching some of the old stuff, like the Survivor Series, and especially obviously with the retirement of the Undertaker, and there was a section on there called Untold, and it is Randy Orton talking with the obviously done separately, but Randy Orton and the Undertaker talking about their rivalry for that year through to WrestleMania 21, and he talks openly just to the camera, and just talking about how Randy Orton nearly set himself on fire during that casket, because if you didn't know, he actually emptied a full container of petrol, and unbeknownst to him, it splashed all the way up to his knee, and if he'd have been a foot forward when he lit the match and put it forward, he'd have been set on fire. But the thing that was a moment for me is that we all knew that Randy Orton in his past has been a dick. The stories that are out there.
Yeah.
And at the very, very end, he openly, and this is a spoiler, so I'm sorry about this, but at the very end of the interview, he actually says, there was a point where I actually realised how much of a dick I was, because they were rehearsing their WrestleMania match with everyone, and he was 4 hours late. They'd already done it without him because he'd been on the drink that night, and he turned up 4 hours later, and he had to walk in front of the Undertaker and his dad and everyone else and just basically go, I am so sorry that after all this time, all this year of us having this feud, I have let you down. And he openly said, and at that point, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's been a dick afterwards, but at that point he realised that this guy, The Undertaker, is wanting to work with me, and I have done this to him, and he hasn't belted me and told me off. And at that point he went, I'm sorry, I'm a dick. And that was actually quite cool to see somebody who has been renowned as being like that admit it. But the other thing, on a separate note, is the return of MLW on YouTube. If you've not seen it, they're doing free shows every week on a Wednesday, and they've just done a tournament. And last week, which I've watched this week, their first show back, and it was Davey Boy Smith Jr. facing Jacob Fatu for their heavyweight championship. And I absolutely love Davey Boy Smith Jr. I love Jacob Fatu as well. If you've not checked him out, it's MLW on YouTube. They've got all their old shows. It's a bit like how it's done. It's a bit like NWA, where they were showing their shows every week on YouTube, and it's all there. It's like hour and a half shows, pay-per-views and all that. Go check it out. Really, really good, and it's nice to see something different than normal WWE and even AEW. So yeah, they're my 2 picks for this week.
Very nice. Matt, same question to you.
It's been a busy wrestling week. I think probably the highlight for me in the last 7 days or so is that WWE seem to have discovered what the second W in their name stands for. So, go back to Survivor Series, the tag match between the New Day and the Street Profits was phenomenal. And then Roman against Drew McIntyre was phenomenal. And I think they got the end, like the finish to it was perfect as well, the way they did it. Drew was made to look strong all the way through, even though he lost, because obviously they couldn't really, storyline-wise, they couldn't really sort of like have him go over on Roman. And then Raw was probably the best Raw I've seen in God knows how long, again, from a wrestling perspective. So Riddle against Sheamus were an amazing wrestling match. And then Keith Lee against Bobby Lashley, they booked that really, really well. 2 really big guys, really powerful. They put it across really well. And then Randy against AJ as the main event. It wasn't the best wrestling match, but like storyline wise and storytelling wise, it was really good. And the way they used the Fiend as well. And then skip 2 days forwards. And you got Pete Dunne against Kyle O'Reilly in NXT. That's just phenomenal. It's 2 guys basically trying to break each other. And it was a really good match. And from an NXT perspective, that's going like a week after EO, the women's title match before as well, which again was amazing. So it's like they've discovered how to actually have wrestling on their TV shows now, which is good. But they're also getting a good mix. They're still using a bit of comedy and a bit of like weird stuff as well, especially if you watch NXT, like stuff with Loomis and Cameron Grimes. It's completely ridiculous, but it's good fun, and the way they're doing it. Like Cameron Grimes, I think his stock is going up week in, week out as well. So
it's a nice break, isn't it?
Man, would you say that his stock is going to the moon?
Absolutely, that's definitely on the right trajectory anyway. So
very nice. And Kyle O'Reilly picked up that ladder spot was sick. To be fair, it was really brutal. Kyle was having a great year, obviously against Finn as well. Big fan of him here, obviously. But yeah. Good on, and you're right. Even I don't watch a lot of it, but even I can see there's a bit of an upswing, at the moment in the quality, I think, of WWE television. So, it'll be interesting to see, where they go into the new year. And finally, Grizz, last but not
Sorry, just say that Daniel Bryan against Sami Zayn was a good match this week as well, if you haven't caught it. And I mean, Kevin Owens against Jey Uso was a good one as well, actually. So I mean, this SmackDown was very good as well. So yeah, you're definitely right. The wrestling's been very good.
It's been a good week for WWE across the board.
Yeah, sounds it.
There
I
you go.
haven't SmackDown yet, but I will probably watch that at some point tomorrow. So it's good to hear that at least I'm going into something good.
And what about you, Grace? If it's not been too spoiled, what was your favourite beat of the week?
Well, yeah, like surprisingly, I am actually going to bring up NXT stuff because I do always feel like, okay, not all weeks, but a lot of weeks, AEW definitely always tips the scale over NXT on the Wednesday Night Wars. But two segments in particular. One was the opening match with Ember Moon and Candice LeRae. Like, I like both women. I don't know why. I just didn't enjoy this match very much. But what made me care was the aftermath where Toni Storm came in and backed up Ember Moon. And then they even done the thing where it's like, right, okay, we're going to jump in and then we're going to kick their butt. And then they both start to run. And then Toni just stops and drags Ember out the ring and then throws her to the steel steps. I'm like, hello, something's happening here. And
commentary. Hello, something's happening.
And then later on, it was announced that, like, because I originally I thought it was just going to be Candice LeRae versus my dear sweet Shotzi Blackheart at War Games in a one-on-one match, but no. Then Candice LeRae later on in the night announced that she is assembled her War Games team, which means we are getting Women's War Games again this year.
Mm.
And the other segment was, of course, it was the Kevin Owens show segment with Leon Ruff and just all the kind of deadpan comedy that Kevin Owens was doing when he starts trying to hype up Leo Rush, and then Leo goes, I beat Johnny Gargano next week, and he just went, oh no. And then Leo's like, what's the matter? It's like, I've done enough of these shows that every time that a wrestler says another wrestler's name, they're gonna come out. Wait, watch this. 3, 2, 1. Oh, there you go. And then Johnny Gargano then he offers Johnny Gargano a chair, and he's like, I don't want that. And then he brings up another chair after Johnny Gargano throws that first one at the ring, and he's like, I don't want that one either. It's like, oh no, this one's not for you. It's just a hunch. It's just a hunch. And then Gargano mentions Damian Priest, and he's like, hey, he did it again. 3, 2, 1. Then Priest comes out. He offers him the chair, and Priest goes, I appreciate it, but I'm good. And then Kevin Owens pushes the chair back in the corner and goes, I don't even know why I bring these chairs.
Very nice, very nice. And
William Regal doing the tail bit as well.
Liar. Yeah, and then the fact that announced a triple threat match for the North American title, which I am hella excited for, because Leon Ruff has to win this. Surely.
I feel like that title has a lot of triple threat matches. Every time I see that title being defended, it is a triple threat match. But, you know, maybe that's what the lower kind of title cards are for, or matches, I should say. But yeah, nothing wrong with a triple threat. And on that, I wanted to mention that AEW had a triple threat tag match, which I don't know if they've even done before, you know, but I'd like to see a little more of that actually, and maybe we will. I know Cody's a purist, but for the next kind of title match, I'd like to see a triple threat personally. It opens up a whole other dynamic, but that's a whole other show. But for now, we are out of time and we are out of here for another month. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you've been enjoying our content. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or hit subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms. Next month, very excited to say, it's of course a Christmas special. Woo! So please hit us up on Twitter. If you have any thoughts, we're on our Facebook page as well now. Drop us an email at tba@gmail.com, because we'd love to have some of the listener questions sent in to us we can cover. Thanks again to Big Johnny, as per usual, for the continued opportunity and support. And everyone behind the scenes that makes this show so special, including Mike, Mad Dog, Angus for our intro, and Half Decent for our ring music. Shout out to both. Most of all, thanks for the rest of the Brew'd who've been hosting this with me. It's been a good show. I've enjoyed it. We're still here in the pub, of course. The reviews to close down, but we remained socially distanced. So take that, Boris. But there you go. That's the end of the show. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Now I can tell people about how much my boobs hurt. Now I can tell people about how much my boobs hurt. Now I can tell people about how much my boobs hurt.